about the main slate now on for today. Sorry, I'm still a little distracted by the morning slate, but ready to get into the main slate. Sheets, any overall thoughts before we jump into game by game?
Yeah, there are a couple of pitchers with really, really good matchups, which we will get to. And I have maybe 2 or 3 or 4 main stacks, maybe 5. It's kind of a shorter slate, so that's interesting. And I am going to be going live at 11 p.m. to sweat the conclusion of the slate, and perhaps more important, doing the live lineup build for the Open Championship, which starts at about 1 a.m. Eastern time.
Nice. Yes. I think it actually starts at midnight.
Is that what?
I thought it was. I don't know.
Maybe. I thought it was later.
All right, we'll see what happens. All right, so let's go into game by game, and we'll figure it out because it is true we have some good pitchers and
yeah, it's 1:35 a.m. Eastern time.
Oh, it is. Okay, that's great. Because for some reason, DraftKings, I thought had it a little earlier.
No, I'm looking at DraftKings, so I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, perfect. Well, that's great. I may have just been mistaken. Yeah, I still got it at 56. Oh, okay, 12 hours. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's right. That's great. Okay, so let's get into game by game here. We'll pull your screen up and go that way.
Yep.
All right. So first up, Angels and Yankees for the early. It's weird to see the 4 o'clock, all the early games on tonight except for Seattle. But the Angels, so the Angels in, the Yankees in Oakland, in LA. Jesus, I can't get anything right. It's really, really, really hot down here. This will be the hottest game played in the Angel Stadium this season for sure. I don't know, any other time that they might get it this hot again. It's 91 degrees. So with wind blowing out, which I think makes, the Yankees definitely playable. It's not been the most fun lineup to try to stack lately, but they're cheap. They're definitely reasonable. And I still kind of am interested a little bit in Rodon, but I think he's a little behind the other pitchers for me, but he's definitely on my list. And I think the Yankee stack is definitely viable. But I don't know. I think that they're one of a few that I'm going to talk about, but I think they're going to be one of the lower owned ones. And I'm probably willing to gamble with that.
I actually have the Yankees one of my top 2 stacks today. When you factor in both value and raw points. So there's that. The Rodon, he's showing up as a play, one of my top 5 pitchers, but I prefer to just see him have a decent game first before I speculate, especially given the weather that you just mentioned. So I'm probably going to have him on the outside looking in. As I mentioned before his last start, this is not the beginning that the Yankees were hoping for Carlos Rodon, and given the weather you just mentioned, I prefer to be a little late than early on him actually.
Yeah, I don't think he looked bad at all in the first 2 games. I have a different thing than the Yankees do, but it's going to take him a minute to get back. He hasn't pitched all season, so
yeah,
I think certainly give him a little bit of time. All right. Next up, San Diego and Toronto, and another good one last night that didn't really matter was having San Diego. It was one of those things where you could have a lot of good stacks and just
crazy
many of them. 2 good pitchers here, 2 good enough pitchers, I should say, to probably keep me off of most things. I think that the Padres side is probably slightly more interesting than the Blue Jays side, but I don't know. I think you can make an argument for the Blue Jays if you wanted to get a little fringy and try to stack against Darvish. What do you think about this one? I have it sort of as a cross off, but I certainly could see an argument for either stack.
Yeah, I kind of have it the opposite in that. Well, sort of the same, but sort of the opposite. I agree that the pitchers are probably good enough to keep me off of the hitting, but I would, if anything, maybe take a shot with San Diego. But but similar. And I actually do have San Diego as one of those 5 teams I like. But I haven't had a lot of luck getting Berrios right one way or the other, and so I'm probably going to end up passing on it.
Yeah, and look, there's not that many. It's only an 8-gamer. Both these pitchers deserve, like, if you're multi-entering, like I would get exposure to both these guys for sure. They're not my priorities, but they definitely make enough sense, and there's enough upside, especially with Darvish, to probably take a chance there. All right, next up, we're not sharing your screen. Let's see. Next up you have Cincinnati, San Francisco.
Yep.
Okay. Another one that came through late last night. After a little delay.
They always scored like 12 runs to not win, I think. I'm not sure.
But they both did, though.
Right.
Both sides did. My prediction is if that happens again tonight, I think that you'll be in good shape. I am on both of these stacks personally. I think that there's totally no reason not to. It's 84 degrees in Cincinnati. It's Ashcraft and Stripling, and for what it's worth, Ashcraft has been better. And if you wanted to get really fringy, because the Giants have a boom bust lineup, and it's going to be hard to know. Like the Giants, it's hard to know without knowing who's going to be in the lineup today. But Flores was the guy who wasn't supposed to be playing yesterday, and he basically provided all the Giants' offense last night. He had 2 home runs. I think he had a couple walks also, and I'm higher on San Francisco than I am on the Reds, but I think this is the game that you're going to want tons of exposure to. The only thing you're going to have to deal with is that other people will as well. And I'm going to guess that, actually looking at the initial ownership, it's a little lower than I would have thought. So I'd be happy right off the bat to make this my prime spot of the evening and be really, really you have affordable plays on the San Francisco side. You've got an incredibly potent offense. We will see if that Encarnacion Stroud gets in tonight, because he came in the third inning last night, and he had a home run actually it wasn't his first major league bet. He had one other game, but he had a home run. He's a top prospect, and I think that you might have some extra value to go in there with the expensive Reds. So I like both sides, just a bigger edge for me.
Yeah, I have San Francisco as one of my teams today for my stacks. I didn't quite get to the Reds, but San Francisco, I'll give them another shot. So San Francisco, yes. I'm not quite getting to the Reds, though.
Okay. All right. So we'll move forward to Chicago and the Mets. I like Verlander a lot. He's one of my top guys as of right now. I don't think that there's a huge gap between the top guys. He seems like a really good play against the White Sox, who, again, though, they've been better. They've been getting better and better against righties as the lineup is sort of, as they've sort of gotten it together. But I'm still happy to take a shot there. Looking at some of the strikeout leaders here. Let's see. The White Sox are 10th most against righties of anybody. That's reasonable. That's a reasonable number. They also, for the season, they're only hitting .230 off of righties. I think this is a good spot, and at the same time, I think that there's an argument for the Mets stack here, which is that what I think a lot of people are going to do, and I'm totally okay with it. I just want to remind everybody that it seems like every time the Mets are chalk, I don't know what that is, but they seem to underperform, and I guess they're not going to get the ownership they are either. So I guess the Mets would come in next for me behind San Francisco, Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm kind of with that chalk right now, and that I like the Mets alongside of the Yankees as 2 of my favorites today. And Verlander, like you said, I mean, it's a righty against the White Sox, and it's a righty who's going to the Hall of Fame against the White Sox. You know what I mean? Like it's sounds good to me. This is not even probably the best righty matchup tonight, so we'll get there later, I guess. But I think Verlander. I think
the best righty matchup keeps failing us, unfortunately.
It sure does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I like Verlander. He's one of my top 2, and the Mets are one of my top 2 stacks as well.
Yep. All right, let's talk about Arizona and Atlanta, because another beautiful hitting day, another incredible spot. And what I've loved about playing Atlanta lately is that you've been able to get them at lower ownership. I don't think it's going to be the case today. I think Acuna is going to be 30+% owned, and then they're going to people are going to literally do everything they can to try and cram in everybody else. Again, hard team to fit in, But if Rosario's out again, then at least you have a 2,300 option that you can make it as a part of a 5-man. But as of right now, I like Atlanta, but the ownership is probably going to keep me off of it. And again, if for whatever reason they don't have more than 3 or 4 guys above 10%, I'll be happy to try to full 5-man stack it. But I think that the other offenses are good enough where I could take shots on them. Always scary to fade Atlanta because they can put up a million runs every single night. But tonight it might be a night where I do that. You might see this Forrest Wall, by the way, at minimum cost, get some playing time tonight. So he's 2K. That would make Atlanta stack much easier to get to. That's also going to make it a lot more popular. I am not getting to Charlie Morton. I know it's a smaller slate, but everybody knows, and I'm a big Morton guy. I actually really like Morton. He's been really good. But I don't think that against this Arizona team in this kind of weather that I want to mess with it. I just think Arizona's scary, and I even would go further if I was playing 150 tonight. I think I would have like 10 or 15% of Arizona, just because I think that they're going to be unowned and they get to have the same great hitting conditions, and we saw what they did with it last night. Maybe they don't score 16 again or whatever the hell it was, but I do think that they're viable. So certainly can understand a lot of different sides of this game, but for me, it's probably mostly going to be a cross-off as of right now for my limited number of entries.
Yeah, I actually have Morton as not my top 2 or 3, but I have him right underneath that, and I have Atlanta as a team I'd like to get to. But like you said, I mean, one of the allures of trying to get to them recently is that they've been less than 10% owned. Where tonight, as you correctly pointed out, they will not be. So I have to think about that. But they definitely rate to be, one of the top, certainly the top raw points on the board. But they always are. You know what I mean? Like it's Atlanta and whoever's playing in Colorado, but sometimes not even. Sometimes Atlanta.
Right. Sometimes it's just Atlanta.
It's just Atlanta. So the problem is not the problem is that I do want to pay up for pitching a little bit. So maybe Atlanta again. If they're high on, maybe I will throw them away.
Yeah, it scares me, but I'm gonna probably have to go away from it if the chalk is a little bit too much.
Yep.
All right, so you got Hendricks and Trevor Williams in Chicago. It is slight wind blowing in from right field, well, 8 miles an hour, so a little more. But we had a little slight wind last night, and they still scored a bunch of runs. Yeah, I think that the Cubs are interesting here. I would prefer the righties in general, but you have Taubman, who's probably going to lead off at 2,800. That's hard to ignore. And obviously, I can always play Bellinger, but I think this is a spot where I could definitely tuck myself into some Cubs. I am not going to get to any Nationals. In fact, another one I'd have like a 10% if I played 150 of Kyle Hendricks tonight, but I'm not going to play him in limited lineups probably. But yeah, I certainly do like the Cubs tonight. Maybe not a full stack, but Morel, Horner, good stolen base opportunity, and then maybe Suzuki or Bellinger to round out like a mini stack, something like that. I think sounds good to me.
Yeah, interestingly, I didn't get to the Cubs tonight. I do tend to stack against Trevor Williams from time to time, so I'm going to look at that. What'd you say the wind was over there?
It's slightly 8 miles an hour blowing in from right.
So yeah, I'm not getting to any of the 4 prongs of this game yet. So the whole game is for me right now a cross-off.
Gotcha. All right. So then, why don't you start the last 2 off sheets? We'll start with the Detroit and KC one. Why don't you go ahead and now?
Yeah, I mean, I'll play Erod. Let's go. Yep. He's one of my top 4 pitchers or so. He's got a good matchup, and it looks good to me. I'm not getting to Yarborough, although he's.
Well, why aren't we? That's what I was trying to figure
out. I know. I'm thinking about it. I said although. I mean, it's just kind of the cheat code, right? all pitchers against Detroit. Yeah, why not? I don't know. He's not projecting well for me, but I'll look at it again. I mean, listen, if I'm trying to get somewhat different, I guess it's just not bad. But priority for me would be from this game is Erod. Well, not priority. I mean, I have them as like my 3rd or 4th pitcher, but he certainly has a lot of upside. He's got a good matchup, and I like it.
So you get 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left, which is good for Erod. I'm into the Erod idea tonight, and I'm into the Yarbrough thing. I think I'm going to talk myself into this one. Just going to double check how many pitches he's been throwing. I know he's pitched deeper into some games, but hold on one second. Let me just see what it is. Okay, hold on one second. Yarbrough. Wow, they really did make him so cheap. Yeah, the pitches have probably been right around 80, so you're probably not getting a full workload, but he doesn't walk a ton of guys, and I think it's a good enough spot to where we should probably gamble with it. We would, I'll take look, his last 2 outings, he was very good against Oakland and Cleveland. Why can't we play him at 5,500? I'm in on that idea. He's my get weird play then, I guess.
All right, so I'll start with this last game. So I'll put it to you this way. If you didn't have a good time playing Logan Gilbert at 60% ownership, busting against Minnesota, and then if you didn't have even a better time playing Brian Wu at 100% ownership, busting against Minnesota, you get a third chance of a 60% owned guy against Minnesota, that being Luis Castillo. And he will be 50-60% owned because Minnesota's seems to be a good matchup. No one can seem to get them out in the last couple of days. But Luis Castillo does rate for me to be the top overall pitcher on the slate, and it will be that way for about 60% of the field. I am not against playing Kenta Maeda, especially coming off of a letdown performance, because he's been really good. So he's not projecting really that well, but maybe that keeps his ownership down. So I listen. Castillo's the obvious play for sure, but I'll take a shot with Maeda, maybe.
Yeah. So these are the 2 highest strikeout teams in baseball against righties by a pretty wide margin, and Minnesota being significantly worse than everybody else, striking out far more often. I like the idea of playing Maeda. And
like that
ownership thing. I don't think it makes sense for him to be as low owned as he's going to be. And he's got literally like one of the best matchups in baseball, which is a righty against Seattle. Now there is the also, add with Seattle, the one thing that's different about them and some of these other teams that strike out a ton. Actually, see, it's true for Seattle and it's really true for the Twins. They do have some power, whereas like Oakland and the Tigers are probably better matchups for righties because they don't have any power against righties. But they strike out, look, they're striking out at the second highest clip in baseball. And it's good enough for me to take a shot with Maeda, who, has always been a little bit of he had a couple of years with the Dodgers where he was really consistent. Mostly has been pretty all over the place ever since. But talk about, look, he put up 30, he goes 833, 11, 28. I do think he's got a real ceiling, and actually he's flashed more of that ceiling than basically anybody on this slate lately. So I'm in on the Maeda idea. So I guess that sort of sums up my pitching for the night. Is like I like Verlander, Erod, Castillo would be my the best plays, and I think Yarbrough and Maeda are terrific pivots. My favorite stacks are going to be the San Francisco-Cincinnati game, both sides, particularly San Francisco. I like the Mets and I like the Cubs as of right now. The Yankees are in there too. I just wanted to figure out how high owned they're going to be before I make my decision. I think that it's going to end up with them being like really popular.
Yeah, I like the ugly Americans. I like the New York and California teams as far as stats go. I like both San Francisco and San Diego, and the Mets and the Yankees, and then Atlanta. And then pitching wise, again, I got to figure out how to get different here. But Castillo, Verlander, Erod. Yeah, you know what? How about Maeda, Yarbrough pairing with Atlanta? Now we're getting somewhere. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way to do it, I think. So that might bring Atlanta back into the mix for me, just because I can get that weird pitching combination that no one's going to have.
Yeah, now we're getting somewhere.
I think it's kind of cool. Actually, I think that if I play Atlanta, that's probably exactly what I'll do. And maybe then me and Sheets, we can chop the 50 or 100K, whatever it is. I think
that sounds good to me. Hey, listen, we're gonna be splitting. We're gonna have some money to spend after this afternoon slate. So
there we go. Yeah, we'll be splitting it, and then we're free rolling our way into the Open Championship.
Exactly.
There we go. Springboards.
Yep, springboards.
All right, so I am.
Well, before we go, let me do a Saberson build for tonight.
Yeah, let's see what it's like.
Let's just see what we got. Then we'll get out of here and come back for golf in a minute. Let's just for kicks. Let me just use the Saberson projections for now. We'll change a couple of things just to stay kosher, and then we'll build 50 lineups and see what we would get. I imagine it's going to be like 1,000% Castillo.
Yeah,
I would think Castillo, Verlander together, and
probably.
then probably the Mets, like you said. But we shall see.
It's weird because it's only 8 games, but I'm not seeing something that's a little bit up with the ownerships because none of the hitters are quite as high owned as I would expect.
Yeah, as indicated, Verlander and Castillo 75%, 68%. Rodon gets in there, and then look at Arizona top owned stack. Let's go.
They love Arizona, and they've been right about it all year. So
yeah, there it is, right
after it,
right at the top of the board. There it is.
Yeah, Arizona. I mean, like, why not? Like, I mean, so first of all, you get past Morton, you've got a bullpen that's been used a ton. Obviously, they just used 1 million guys yesterday. And Morton, I mean, look, Morton is a good pitcher, but he can get hit. This Arizona team is no joke. And we've talked about it from the beginning, and I feel like we were earlier on it. I teased you about it over the last 3 years because you kept talking about how they were good and they were like the worst team in baseball. But you were like just ahead of your time. You just saw it coming.
That's it.
All right. So should we now move over to should we turn this?
Yeah. So let's reset the stream again.
Okay.
And then we'll do the Open Championship.
Let's do it. All right. I will get out of here. Good luck, everybody, and we'll see you live at 6, and then again live at 11.